Telling this story is not easy, because there are some forms of salvation that keep you alive, but never let you rest. This story begins with two friends, Daniel and Michael. They had known each other since childhood. Their fathers had worked as fishermen on the same boat, hauling the same nets for years, sailing into the sea during the same storms. Friendships forged in the middle of the sea are quiet but deep. The bond between Daniel and Michael was just like that. They started elementary school together. They shared the same desk. They used the same notebook. People never separated them. They would say, "They come as one." They walked side by side throughout their lives. Years passed, they both became doctors. But that was where the first separation began. Michael became a specialist in pulmonary medicine. Daniel became a specialist in internal medicine. Michael was deeply devoted to his faith. He loved helping people. From a very young age, his father had instilled in him the belief that helping others was a religious duty. Daniel, on the other hand, kept his distance from religion. He wasn't openly opposed to it, but he saw belief as a form of weakness. He was especially harsh when it came to patients. The town they worked in was a place with limited resources and a largely uneducated population, and this only fueled Daniel's frustration even more. "Where there is science, there is no room for superstition," he would say. People harm themselves through their ignorance. Michael would usually remain silent. He was patient and understanding with people. He explained things gently, kindly, and even provided medication for those who couldn't afford it. But Daniel's manner was harsh, and sometimes his words cut deeper than a knife. He scolded everyone, treated people coldly, and broke hearts without hesitation. That day, a woman came into the hospital. That woman would change everything in Daniel's life. She walked in wearing torn clothes, her hair tangled and unkempt. Beside her was a child, around 8 years old. The boy couldn't walk. He was clutching his stomach, his eyes staring into nothingness. Daniel looked at the medical file. The child's stomach was essentially burned from the inside. "What did you give him to drink?" he asked. The woman lowered her head. "Something for healing?" Daniel's voice rose. "What did you give him? Who gave it to you?" The woman remained silent. Daniel stood up angrily. "Did you perform some kind of spell?" he said. "Did they give you an amulet?" He asked because such practices were very common in that town at that moment. The woman looked directly into Daniel's eyes. Her gaze was cold, but not angry. "Doctor," she said, "I ask for healing." Daniel laughed. "Healing?" he said. "What you did is ignorance. Your child is dying. Do you even realize that?" He scribbled a few medications and treatments onto the paper in front of him and handed it to his assistant. Then he added, "Have these done, unless you want to be your child's killer." The woman said nothing. She took her child and, as she was leaving, she stopped, standing in the doorway. She spoke a single sentence. A person cannot always pay the price for the words that leave their mouth. From that night on, Daniel's life began to unravel quietly. On the first day, the nausea started. Then came the insomnia. He never considered that it might have anything to do with the woman. He dismissed it as a simple cold and began taking medication he had prescribed for himself. But it wasn't ordinary. When Daniel woke up, he would feel as if someone was sitting on his bed. When he opened his eyes, no one was there, but the pillow would be wet. It wasn't sweat. It was cold. Then the voices began. At night, right beside his ear, you mocked what you did not understand. Daniel told no one. He assumed his overworked mind was playing tricks on him until the day he collapsed at the hospital. When Michael saw him, he was frightened, because Daniel's face looked as if it had collapsed inward. Strange things began happening at the hospital. Patients refused to enter Daniel's room. Children started crying. The elderly began praying. One nurse quietly pulled Michael aside and whispered, "When I stand near him, I feel nauseous. He smells like rotting flesh, especially when he starts talking, the smell coming from his mouth. It's as if something has died inside his stomach." At night, Daniel would vomit. But what came out wasn't normal. It was dark, thick, stringy, stretching unnaturally. When he looked in the mirror, even his pupils moved differently. He no longer recognized himself. One night, he called Michael. "Something is moving inside me," he said, "and it hates me." Michael knew then that this wasn't medical. Michael called his father. Michael's father was a man known throughout the town for his deep religious knowledge, someone who helped people through their troubles and was respected by everyone. He understood faith and how to use it to help others. When the old man looked at Daniel, he remained silent for a long time. Then he said, "You broke a woman's heart." Daniel protested, "I only spoke the truth." The old man shook his head. When truth is spoken without compassion, it turns into poison. That night, the rituals began. But there was no screaming, no candles, only prayer, silence, and waiting. The old man told Daniel one final thing. This burden can only be lifted through forgiveness. They had to find the woman. When they found the woman, Michael flinched. She was no longer like she had been on that first day. She was clean. Her hair was neat. But her eyes, they were the same. The walls of her house were covered with dried herbs, old books, and strange symbols. The woman looked at Michael. "You are different," she said. "You listen." Then she turned to Daniel. "And you tried to silence." Daniel fell to his knees. "I regret the words that left my mouth," he said. "Forgive me." The woman remained silent for a long time. Then she opened a chest. From inside, she took out an old notebook. It contained healing rituals she had performed since childhood. But between the pages, there were other things as well. Names. Michael noticed one of them, Daniel's name. When they found the woman, Michael flinched. She was no longer like she had been on that first day. She was clean. Her hair was neat. But her eyes. The woman spoke. "I did not cast a spell," she said. "I opened a connection." "A connection to what?" Michael asked. The woman fixed her gaze on Daniel. "When a person speaks without compassion," she said, "they are not alone. Some things listen in that moment." She placed her hand on Daniel's forehead. "I am taking the burden back now," she said. "But there is a price." That night, Daniel was saved, but not completely. When he returned to the hospital, everyone felt relieved. But Michael noticed something. Daniel had become someone who heard prayers. One day, Daniel said this, "I listen to my patients now, but sometimes something else listens behind them too." Daniel never raised his voice again, never mocked anyone, and every morning, before looking in the mirror, he whispered, "If you can hear me, be silent." Sometimes, Daniel wakes up at night, and at the foot of his bed, he hears the woman's voice. "You held your tongue, but I still hear your thoughts." And that is why some forms of salvation are not true salvation at all. ChatGPT, Hotayopabilla, Nemli, Bilgeleri, Contrell, Edin. Thank you for listening to this story. If it affected you, don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. See you in the next one.